find this? Do you think some people are, okay.
All right, thank you guys for coming to the session. My name is Melissa Humphreys. I'm a Senior Research Specialist here in the Strategic Planning and Funding Division. And today we'll be focusing on using marketing and dissemination strategies to support your regional goals. We have some really good presentations, some examples of how this has been done for certain regions, but also for 60x30TX, and we also have a person here who can share some resources that the coordinating board has. So you should get a lot of good ideas from this. I did want to, I heard that Jenna mentioned this, but this is being recorded. It's not broadcast, but recorded so people can see this after the fact. The mics are up here, so if you ask a question during the presentation, your voice may or may not be picked up. But I will say before the Q&A starts at the end, we'll stop recording. So if we want to go off script, then that's fine. But just know if you ask something before then, it may be recorded. But you're welcome to ask questions. Just wanted to warn you. Also, a reminder to use the sheet that's in your red folder. It's there to help you take notes, to get some ideas for when you have your team time later if you want to discuss some of the things that have come up. Can everyone over there see? I want to make sure we can move chairs if we need to. Okay. Okay, well, we'll get started. The first presentation is with Claudette Jenks and Lisa Pais. They'll be talking about GenTex. Claudette has been employed at the coordinating board since 2007, and she serves as the Director of College Access and Success. She also serves as the project manager of major statewide initiatives, including Applied Texas, Generation Texas College Going Campaign, Advise Texas Near Peer Advising, and the Texas Challenge to Reach Higher initiative. Lisa has been employed with us since October 2018, and she serves as a program specialist of College Access and Success. Prior to her employment with the coordinating board, Pais worked with the Upward Bound TRIO program at Lone Star College North Harris, assisting low-income first-generation students pursue higher education after graduation. So I'll send it over to you.
Good morning. Thank you, Melissa. So I'm here today to share a little bit more about our GenTex, Generation Texas statewide campaign. GenTex is a statewide campaign that supports students, parents, and counselors in order to support a college-going culture. So that's a very broad statement, but it's really getting more support toward helping students progress and navigate through their pathways to and through higher education. So on our website, we have gentex.org is a website that hosts several different resources and toolkits that are available, primarily to counselors, but there's lots of different tools there as well for students, and it will help navigate those different types of things to and through higher education. We wanted to share with you, and Lisa will go into those shortly more in detail. So I'm just going to give you the overview of GenTex. GenTex is really aligned with a lot of our goals. We also have GenTex working with the Reach Higher initiative. Reach Higher, I don't know how many of you are familiar with Reach Higher. I know Carol served on worked with us extensively. So Reach Higher is more of a regional effort that supports our statewide goals under GenTex. More specifically, it helps support application and FAFSA completions, and that's one of the biggest steps that we have to get through for students to get into the higher ed pipeline. So that's what we're working on towards that. One of the things that we were asked to talk to you all today is social media. One of the biggest things that we do under Generation Texas, aside from just the toolkits and resources available on our website, is a big use of our social media. We have we're on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, Snapchat, and YouTube. These are all of our handles. One of the biggest reasons why we navigated to social media is, one, it's you can get bigger bang for your buck. and it can do, you can do a lot with limited capacity. So we have a team of 2, it's Lisa and myself, and that's how we do the entire statewide initiative. If we had more support and more funding, then obviously we can do a lot more, but we know that students navigate towards social media, so we've used this as a bigger platform to inform and disseminate information. I wanted to share with you really quickly some of our bigger events around Generation Texas, aside from just the toolkits and resources I mentioned that Lisa will share with you here shortly. We wanted to let you know that you all in your regions can join different activities we have for the state. These are different initiatives or state activities that we do throughout the year. One of the biggest is GenTex Month, which is held in November. This is an opportunity where we do a huge statewide push and encourage high schools and any community groups to push application completion and FAFSA completion. So that's November is the biggest month for us in order to get the students started, and it aligns well with the opening of the FAFSA in October. Another initiative that we're adding, every year we add some sort of initiative, but we're also tying into national initiatives like the American College Application Campaign. Our state is a partner with that, so we've tied into national campaigns like that. We have found that a lot of the counselors and community groups do like to affiliate themselves with national campaigns. So at a state level, we've also tried to align our efforts with that as well. So in that effort, we do Why Apply, which is part of the American Application College Campaign Drive, and that's September 20th. That's a huge social media campaign, and basically we encourage students and counselors and community to say why apply. Basically get that motivation going at the beginning of the year to say why are you wanting to go to higher education. And like I mentioned, GenTex Month is November. Then toward the end of the year, we do a push with financial literacy. Financial literacy is somewhat new to our division. Last year sometime, our agency convened a group of financial literacy advisors and wound up coming up with some recommendations. Part of those recommendations basically said we need to do more to help students understand financial literacy. Not just financial aid literacy, but financial literacy in general. So that has since come under our unit, again a team of 2, myself and Lisa, but we're trying to also incorporate financial literacy in April. That's the month where there's a big push. We also tie this to our decision day in May. So around the same time, in the end of April, we have financial literacy, and then in May we have, May 1st is our decision day. GenTex Decision Day is primarily a time where we celebrate what students decided to go to from high school to higher ed. We celebrate their decisions to go to 2-year, 4-year, and any kind of pathway they choose. So that's a big, at the end of the year, a big celebration. And this is also an opportunity for students that have not yet decided on where they want to go, for counselors to say, let me help you get to any other pathway. So that's what we do. It's usually the first Friday in May. This year it does fall on May 1st. So those are some of the initiatives. Most recently, we've tried to utilize more of our social media platforms, and what we did this year, because we've learned from other states nationally, as I mentioned, we do affiliate with some other national groups. We learned from other states that Twitter chats have been somewhat popular, so we attempted to do that this past year, primarily with our financial literacy effort, again, because this is new. So Lisa's going to go into how we decided on doing the Twitter chat, but also how to engage in Twitter chats and how to build a Twitter chat. So she'll do that. She'll also go over some of the resources directly on our gentex.org website. That again is going to be resources and tools. They're toolkits for counselors or any community members to be able to share or disseminate information with the GenTex Month or Decision Day. So on there they have templates like even news press releases, things like that, and she'll walk through that with you here shortly. So I'm going to turn it over to Lisa so she can talk through some of the social media components.
Good morning. How many of y'all already have some kind of access to social media or running your social medias? Oh, okay, good. And then I want to start throwing out some of these GIFs or memes and you not know what that is. So it looks like you guys have probably had some experience with that, so I shouldn't have to explain too much into it. We're going to start with best practices. So as Claudette talked about, we actually run all the social media ourselves. And so with that, we had to learn very quickly what it is to get attention on your social media account. It's not just enough to have it up and running. You need to be constant and consistent with your accounts. You want people to continue to look at them. You want people to continue to like and share your accounts. And so these are the couple of best practices we found that work out for us. And it's tying into national and trending hashtags. Does anyone know what hashtags are? Yeah, got nods? Great. So great. Mondays is hashtag motivational Monday. Wednesdays can be way back Wednesdays. You can do a picture of someone that graduated from college back in 1970s, right? And we're saying the movement. We're just tagging it along so that when other people see those hashtags and they're trending, your stuff's going to pop up too. So that's what we do in our end. And then timing of your post. That's a big deal. When you got to think about, when do you log into your social media? You do it first thing in the morning. You do it at your lunch break, and then you do it when you get out of work at 5, correct? Everyone? I do it. I'm guilty of that too, okay? So those are the times you want to post because you're going to get the most attention at that point. And then the next thing we work with is Hootsuite. Has anyone heard of Hootsuite? If you haven't, go Google it as soon as you leave. Sign up. It's great. You can schedule posts ahead of time. And you can go ahead and do it for all your accounts. So like you saw earlier, we have Twitter, we have Facebook, we have Instagram, we have Snapchat, we have YouTube. So we can combine some of those. And we also have, for our other programs like Advise Texas, we have those social media accounts too. So I can go ahead and schedule out for Advise Texas and Generation Texas to do a post on Facebook and Twitter and Instagram and schedule it for tomorrow at noon and be done with it. And it will post on its own. And so that helps you so you can schedule out your day, your week, your month, if that's how far ahead you are, and I applaud you if you're that far ahead. And then another way to get attention is, of course, GIFs, memes, and photos. So GIFs are going to be those things that kind of move. They look like photos, but they move. And your memes is, I'll give you an example. If you could follow fast one, that'd be great. It makes you laugh, it makes you want to share that, and it gets your attention. And then, of course, just plain old photos, too. If you have a photo from your event, that's always great. You have a photo of someone doing an application drive, that's great. Post it. That's going to get you more attention. And then lastly, we are starting to do an editorial calendar. So that I'm going to combine with my Hootsuite. And this is an example of what it will look like. So this is an example for October. And so you see how the hashtags are down here in the notes section? These are hashtags that are either national already going up. You can Google national hashtags, and it'll show you that October 12th is Train Your Brain Day. Whatever that means, apparently that's going to be a big deal on October 12th, right? So I'm going to figure out a way to use that hashtag in my post. There's usually like National Taco Day. I'm going to figure out a way to join in on hashtag National Taco Day. And I'm going to schedule it out, and I'm going to let you know that I'll post it on Facebook, I'll post it on this. If I'm going to use a GIF or a photo, or I've already created a meme, I'm going to go ahead and attach that to that too. So this way, if I'm out, or we're lucky enough to get a third person in our team, we could have all access on there and be able to post it onto our Hootsuite, already schedule it out, and it'll be ready to go. So Claudette mentioned that we started into Twitter chats. I don't know how many of y'all have ever participated in Twitter chats or have hosted Twitter chats, but they're a lot of fun. I jumped in on it about maybe a week before. Had never really participated in Twitter, didn't have a Twitter account myself, but we made it happen, and it worked. We had professionals in 4-year institutions, 2-year institutions, in high schools that participated, and it was great. It was great feedback. Our goal for the first Twitter chat was to get that feedback from counselors about what students needed to know about financial literacy. And so we took to Twitter to ask those questions. And so what we learned from that, our best practices out of that situation, was we needed to focus on one topic. So we stayed on financial literacy. So we did a 2 Twitter chats just focused on financial literacy. And then you need to create a hashtag. We went back to that hashtag. And so ours was hashtag FinLitTexas. And so that's how everyone would answer back to the questions. That's everything we posted would include that hashtag. That's so if you follow that hashtag, you can pull up the entire Twitter chat. Whether it was live or later on, someone could just click on that hashtag and pull it all up. And then promoting it. We did it, you didn't have to just promote it on Twitter. We promoted it on all of our social media accounts. We did a email out. We did everything we could to get people's attention that, hey, this is what we're doing, this is the information we're going to use, and this is how you can get to it. And then the questions. We did 7 questions. The normal is between 6 to 8 if you're going to do an hour-long Twitter chat. And then you just time that out. If you're doing 8 questions, you divide that out, and figure out how much time you're going to spend on each question before you move on. What we did to make it a little more graphic, because I'm a visual person, so I just assume everyone in the world is a visual person, is that we actually made a graphic for each one of our questions. So as you see here, it says question 6, what to look for in a possible part-time job while in college. And we included our hashtag, and we told them to reply at Generation Texas and to use the hashtag. This way they continue to get the information, they continue to get the instructions for the Twitter chat, and the graphic, when you hit the hashtag, is coming up as well to get attention. And so that worked really well. We actually worked with ACAC about their Twitter chats, and that was one of their biggest things, is having those graphics. Another way is you kind of cheat the system, because on Twitter you only get so many characters, right? So if you made a graphic and put your question on the graphic, you can write as long a question as you want. You don't have to worry about the characters. And so that's kind of how you went around it. And then recruiting topic experts. So what we did, if you look at like TU Advising Board or Trellis, they're not on there by accident. We went out and looked for experts in the field. And we asked them, hey, would you like to participate in our Twitter chat? These are going to be the questions. Can you prepare for them ahead of time and participate in the Twitter chat? So I did that to about 5 to 6 people each Twitter chat. And they logged in. They had already had the questions beforehand, so they prepared their memes, they prepared their GIFs, they prepared their photos. And when a Twitter chat went live, they're ready to go to spur the conversation. This way, you're not just waiting around for anyone. You already have experts in the field spurring up the conversation, getting it going, so that the other people that log in can just add to it and can already get excited about it and be like, oh, hey, this is what we're talking about. And they'll feel a little bit more comfortable. This worked great. When we did our second Twitter chat, we had the experts in there, and they had their social medias linked into our Twitter chat. So people that were following them were watching our Twitter chat. And so we're adding into it and decided to join in and answer questions with us as well. And then the last thing I wanted to talk about was proper response etiquette in Twitter chats. So if we go back to the graphic, you'll see that they were going to use our hashtag, and then they reply back. So that's it. They need to make sure they use @Generation Texas, and they used our hashtag. This way it's always flowing through your actual media, and it's not getting lost. They're not just responding to it and no one sees it. As long as they're putting at your site and tagging you in that way and using your hashtag, people can always go back to your site and to that hashtag so they can view it later. Okay. So as promised, we've discussed some resources and some toolkits that you can pull down yourself. And we partner, like Claudette said, with ACAC, and they're great. They are the ones that we pair with when we do Gen Text Month. And so they have their own resources that you can pull down should you decide to run an application drive. And the first one I want to show you, if you've never done an actual campaign and you want to start brand new and you have no idea where to start from, how to start or anything like that, this resource is going to break it down for you by the weeks. And it's 8 weeks out, this is what you should be doing, all the way to 1 week out. And it just literally goes through how to prepare every single step, how to promote it, who you should be contacting, what you should be doing at that point of the year. And then our last thing would be Gentex I'm not going to go through any of the specific tools because that would take a little bit longer than we have, but I did want you to know if you go to gentex.org, we do have our own guide that will go through Decision Day and Gentex Month. Then we also go through some handbooks that you can go for a Go Center, or if you're planning some kind of financial aid workshop, we also have some PDFs on there that you can pull down. And then if you see, we also have some posters that if you want to go ahead and promote your event and promote that it's tied into Gentex, you can do that as well. And then there is also a link on here for you to contact us should you have any questions, concerns, or want any kind of Gentex swag out there. You can let us know. We can pair with you and work on that.
And everything on here is customizable, so it's a template. You can just insert your own. You can share these resources with counselors or community members and just let them know that these are already existing press releases, templates on all sorts of, and really a step-by-step on how to do statewide and, at least I mentioned, national initiatives.
Thank you. And these are posted on the page, the PowerPoints. So if you want to get back to those resources, it is available to you. Okay, so the next presentation we have is from the West Texas region, and they'll be able to provide us with an example of how a region did employ some of these strategies and started a dissemination marketing campaign in their region. We have Carol Stevens and Kelly McEwen who are going to be the primary presenters. Carol is from ESC Region 15, and she serves as a professional school counselor education specialist. She also is on the school safety committee and the college career and military readiness committee, as well as chairing the crisis response team. She's also an adjunct instructor at Angelo State University for curriculum and instruction in the school counselor master's degree program. And Kelly is a current AmeriCorps Vista, serving as the college and career readiness educator Vista in Region 15. Her focus is to increase the number of college-ready students graduating from Region 15, 43 school districts. So if you all want to come up and share that with us. And the secondary presenters you're welcome to pitch in, is Hector Gouveia and Dr. Javier Flores. So they also participated in this and may chime in.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Well, I'm excited to be here and tell you a little bit about what we do at the 60x30 West Texas region. We started out, when this initiative first started, we started out with an ESC Region 15 committee and started working on these initiatives and working through the steps and getting our stakeholders together and preparing things for our region to do. And then about 2 years in, or a year and a half in, the Texas Higher Education Coordinating Board came up with this wonderful idea to do the regions, and so we jumped into that realm as well and kind of have been working cooperatively with that as we've gone along. So our higher education institutions in West Texas initiative for the 60x30 West Texas has members from Angelo State University, Howard College, Midland College, Odessa College, Region 15, Region 18, and then our regional workforce boards and the University of Texas Permian Basin. And so what we wanted to do was to make sure that we had all of our colleges and universities involved, our region centers, because they have direct access to the counselors in those regions, the regional workforce boards, because the boards are working with us through the tri-agencies and TEA and working through the programs of study and the regional work initiatives to make sure that we're leading our students into jobs that are going to be available to them in their regional areas. So that was how our membership started. We are looking at expanding that here this second year that we're working on this, because we feel like we've left out some areas that need to be involved in that as well. So we're going to bring in some of our committee members from our Region 15 60x30 initiative, and I'm hoping that 18 will do the same thing. So we make sure that we are looking at all the areas that need to be involved in that, and keeping in mind that you don't want to get your membership so big that you're not productive. When you've got 30 people in a room and you're trying to decide what you're going to do for your 2 regions, it's kind of hard to come to consensus. So we want representation, but we want it to be manageable as well. And so what I do in my region is when we have meetings, then I'll pass out that information to those other people that are on the committee to let them know what's going on and get buy-in and chiming in from them. Do that. So one of the things we thought was important is that we had a consistent message. Because if you don't have a consistent message, then what you're doing is you're splitting that message out, and so this area is working on this area is working on this, and this area is working on this, but there's no common language, there's no common videos, viewing, those types of things. So we wanted to make sure that our message was consistent for the post-secondary opportunities in West Texas. Our audience, of course, is our K-12 students, our parents, our ISDs, and then our potential non-traditional students, because as you know, the 60 by 30 encompasses those as well. So we wanted to make sure that we had our targeted audience and that we were consistent in our messaging. Make sure I'm covering all the things here. It's important to have that effective, clear marketing campaign and to model that campaign throughout. We also wanted to make sure that we, as our organizations, didn't stop marketing ourselves individually, but that we incorporated this consistent message throughout things that we were already doing. We decided that the message is there are great post-secondary opportunities in West Texas for all students. And then, of course, we talked about our audiences. And it's easy for our students to leave school and go straight to higher paying but less sustainable jobs in the oil field in our areas, because that's a big area for that. But we wanted to make sure to let them know that they don't need to miss opportunities to pull students into those other areas and to look further down the road what happens if that industry bombs, as it has many times. What happens when you turn 50 and you don't want to be doing manual labor, you want to be doing something else. That there's different on-ramps and exit ramps to the education field. It's not just you're in, you're working, or you're going to school. You can go on and off those ramps as well. So we started out with some bi-monthly meetings. We did most of those through Zoom and Skype because we are such a large region. So we wanted to make sure that we had participation from the people on our committee. So we did Zooms and Skypes. Our first meeting we started with face-to-face. I think we had, 5 or 6 people there. And then we did Zoom with the ones that couldn't, or phone conversation, conference call with them. So we did that. I think it's important to mention that we all have outside duties, and so this is another thing that we're doing. We wanted to make sure that what the tasks that we were working with were relevant to each entity, and that it was something that we were all trying to accomplish anyway in our other jobs with our other hats on, that we weren't bringing another thing to do to the table, that we were supplementing what was already on those initiatives from those entities, and that we were just giving them tools and adding to things that were going to help them accomplish initiatives and things they were already working on. We didn't want to burden anyone with more things to do. This was going to help support you, give you tools to do the things you're already doing. One of the things we thought was important was to see what capacity was available at those universities, the college departments, the ESCs, all of those that were on the committees. What do you have already in place that we can utilize and use with our committee? So we're not out reinventing the wheel. We're not going out and spending a lot of money that we don't have on things that we already have in-house that we can contribute or help with design and things like that. Those things that weren't picked up or that weren't within the capacity, then we looked at those and delegated those to whoever wanted to do those things or felt like they had a resource that they could go to outside of their entity. We collaborated a lot. We wanted to make sure that the message that we were giving was the message that we all wanted to give, and that it was consistent, and that we all agreed upon it. So we did a lot of emailing and sending copies of things we were doing to make sure that everybody agreed that we didn't need to tweak this or we didn't need to tweak that, because we wanted to make sure that everybody had buy-in and felt that the products that we were putting together were going to be beneficial to everybody. And so we did a lot of that. We reviewed everything as a committee before we actually produced or sent anything out. So Kelly's going to come in and talk a little bit about the actual pieces that we produced. We felt that through our committee, the message was there, but the communication wasn't as good as it needed to be. And so we wanted to provide resources and things for people to use to get that message out in a consistent way, in an easy way. And so Kelly's going to talk a little bit about that. Any questions on any that I covered so far?
So what was probably our biggest project for the last year was getting a 60x30 West Tex website off the ground, which you are totally welcome to go check out. It is a live website now. But we as a committee realized that students often have a really hard time finding specific information on higher education institutions' websites, especially if they don't know what they're looking for, or they become really overwhelmed by all of the things that they thought they knew but don't know anymore. So we also realized that it's also really overwhelming to try to sift through the myriad of college readiness and college prep websites out there. So we used our 60x30 grant money to purchase a web domain and platform specific for a 60x30 West Tex website to be a single place that students can go that's really easy to navigate and find what they're looking for. So this is what the homepage of our website looks like. As you can see, it's really clean and not at all intimidating to look at. It clearly states that our purpose is to promote education in West Texas, and it links to the official 60x30TX website if the viewer wants to learn more about the statewide initiative, which is something that we really encourage for all of our students and teachers anyway. We also wanted to encourage learning more about 60x30 without bogging down our students with information about it, which is why it's just a link to the 60x30 website instead of all of our regional data on this page.
And let me add quickly, since we didn't talk about that, this is another area where we reached out to our committee members and said, okay, who has the capacity to build and maintain this? At Region 15, we didn't have that capacity. I'm not a technology guru, Kelly is, but she's not going to be with us much longer with her VISTA program. So Angelo State University was gracious enough to step up and get their department there to help with the design, and they're also maintaining. So we have a direct link to the person that's in charge of that, where we can change and edit as time allows or things are needed to change.
Okay.
Question.
I apologize for interrupting.
That's okay.
With that reason, how much time, now that this is out there, how much time do you think this takes per month?
So to maintain over time, we don't plan on it taking a lot of time. We'll still meet as a committee bi-monthly or as needed moving forward as we plan new things, and we'll touch on the website then and see if we feel that something needs to change. But a lot of it is very self-contained and like locates places that students would need to go without them having to try to find things themselves.
And Kelly, I can add to that as well. So I have a student assistant in my office that is an English major, but is also very tech savvy. And so I have assigned this to her. She works 18 to 20 hours a week, and this is just one of her assignments. She frequently can get emails or phone calls, especially as we were developing this. She was working very closely with Carol and with our IT department. But as Kelly said, we don't anticipate that it's going to take 20 hours a week. However, I've asked her to go in once a week and look at it, and anytime we have a committee meeting, Carol will send the minutes out, and I send those to Asia, and it's Asia's responsibility to look through and see what information she needs to go in and update the website. So it does remain current and informative. And I think this is also a great example of the message that I think we're really trying to push is the institutions collectively came together and very quickly said, our work with the West Texas region is not going to be competitive. If we are going to survive as a region and if we are going to be effective, we have to work collectively. Now, are we using some of this information to go back to our admissions area and recruitment efforts and things like that? Absolutely we are. But we've committed that we are going to help. And so even the logo for the West Texas region was designed by our communication marketing department at ASU at no cost to the group.
Looking at the website too, it's not a lot of original content. It's a lot of linking.
And she'll go
Right,
through
yeah,
that as
I'm
well.
gonna go over it. But you're right, it is a lot of linking in. We didn't really feel like we needed to recreate new things. We just needed to make them easier to find. So this is a zoomed in picture of our webpage. This falls right below our statement of purpose. And you'll see that we have icons for all 5 of our higher education institutions. And clicking on the name will take you to a page specifically about that institution. So this is Angela Estates' page. And it'll tell you just a little bit about the institution with a very pretty picture. And it'll offer you 3 options: admissions, majors, and requirements. We find that these are the most important things that students often know the least about. So for convenience, clicking on any of these options will take you directly to the page dedicated to that topic at that higher education institution's website. It makes it much easier for them to find exactly what they're looking for without having to try to navigate the website itself, because they're often very confusing.
Are these opening as a new web page so that your
Yes.
face is staying on their?
Yes, it is.
Great,
They
okay.
each open as a new tab in the web browser. And so then below our icons, you'll see that there's this list of resources, and everything in this general area is all links. So Apply Texas will take you directly there, FAFSA will take you directly there, 60x30 will take you there, Twitter will take you to our Twitter account, which I'll talk a little bit about in a minute. But I think what we really want to talk about is the resources. We did include OnCourse, College Board, and Gear Up. Gentex is on our list to add. We're not forgetting about y'all. But we did include them because we don't really feel like we needed to recreate college prep. We just needed to give consistent places for students to look where they were going to be able to find most of their answers. And they also had the benefit in that these are websites that they may already be familiar with. A lot of our counselors in our high schools use Gear Up. Texas OnCourse is becoming a lot more popular in a lot of our school districts, and most of our students are going to know the College Board website from the SATs. So I'm not going to show you how those link out, but we do a little bit want to talk about our college vocabulary link, which is something that we created. It was really a collaboration between our K-12 partners and our higher education members, and it's just a collection of terms that students may not know, may need to know at some point, or may feel uncomfortable asking about, just because we don't expect our first-generation college students, and a lot of our students in West Texas are going to be first-generation college students, to come in and immediately know all of these terms. We wanted to give them a place where they could find out those terms without the stigma of having to ask somebody about them, and give them a base of knowledge for them to move forward and be able to ask questions from. And then the second resource that I want to show you on here is our hot jobs list. We worked with our regional workforce boards in the Concho Valley and the Permian Basins which are the workforce boards that make up our West Texas region, to create this list. And it's a master list for the entire West Texas region. It has 35 high-demand, high-growth jobs that make at least a living wage. We've listed the occupations in alphabetical order with their average wage and the required level of education. You'll notice that education levels vary from a credential of some type to a master's degree. And the goal here was not only to get students thinking about these careers in particular, but to introduce the importance of any type of post-secondary education and the reality that any type of post-secondary education is going to be needed moving forward as a region.
And then we also link to the both of those workforce commissions there at the top.
Yes.
For further information.
Okay, so you'll remember the link to our Twitter page. I don't have a picture of our Twitter page here for you because it's very new. We are very excited about it. But our plan is that because this generation of students is so constantly plugged in, we're hoping to use our Twitter platform as a way to personally connect with our students, as well as share news, college prep tips. We have plans to do Bust College Myth Fridays, and share real-time reports of college and career readiness events happening in our region. And as much as we want to be as plugged in as our students, we do still recognize that there's something really powerful about tangible marketing. And to that point, we created a brochure, which Carol has copies of, and you can all have a copy, but they look like this, and I've shown the PDF up here. But we intend to print our brochures for all of our school districts, and then you'll also see that there's a link to them on our website, and we'll share the PDF with our school districts so they can print more of those as they run out, which we plan on being a cost-saving measure for us so we're not constantly printing new brochures. But they do include brief overview information on higher education in West Texas, a very abbreviated job list, info on how to apply to college, TSI, the 60x30 initiative, types of degrees, workforce prep, and dual credit. And again, this PDF is going to be given to our school districts in our area. And then our last marketing piece, which will go out to our school districts and our community partners, is this poster, which we brought you a printed copy of to look at here. But this is the PDF of the poster. And this is really what we plan on being our sort of last line of defense, to post them in schools and with community partners and community organizations, just so that nobody can really escape our 60x30 West Tex message. And then in closing, we do want to mention that we have steps moving forward to create at least one video using students from our West Texas region. A lot of our region are very small rural areas, and so we expect that having their students in a video that can be on televisions or be used in their schools will be really impactful for students when talking about higher education. And then we're also thinking about doing a text-based one for our schools that use TVs as announcement things. And I think those are all of our plans moving forward.
At this point, yes.
Yes. Yes.
Two questions. First question, did you have to get the coordinating board's approval to use their image within your graphic?
That's a Javier question.
So actually, not only did we get their approval, but we worked very closely with the coordinating board, and they sent us their graphics and said, design it, and we kept Jenna and...
And actually, Kelly is going to talk about this in the next presentation.
Oh, okay.
She's going to talk about all the resources that we can provide.
But they were wonderful to work with.
Second question, in terms of reach, and you said you send these posters out to the school districts, what other means do you communicate the website to get traffic to go there?
So our website is still pretty new. But we're going to use a lot of our ESC contacts because they know all of those school districts and they work closely with them. So that will be a means of dissemination for us. And then I think our universities have plans for that too.
Yes, I know at Angelo State we're going to place a link And then we're also looking at how can we get the link on syllabi, on dual credit syllabi, so dual credit students can then have access to that.
Twitter's generally effective if it is a continual, ongoing use. So who is managing the constant updates for your Twitter?
Carol's gonna run our Twitter account.
She's leaving us, she's our Twitter person. She's
So I
training me.
created Twitter and then I'll train Carol to do it.
And we're gonna steal a lot of the wonderful ideas we heard earlier. So,
Okay, I hate to cut it short, but I want to make
That's fine.
sure Kelly has some time to talk about the resources, and then hopefully we'll have some time at the end to answer some more questions. So Kelly Copper-Polden is going to talk about some of the resources we have here at the coordinating board to share with you all. She's the Assistant Director of External Relations here, and she's responsible for state agency communications and media relations for the whole agency.
Thank you.
And I am the one-person communications, media relations, PR person for the agency. So I keep busy, but I'm very happy to be a resource. And that's really to respect time. I'll go through the presentation pretty quickly, but to cut to the chase, I'm a resource for you. And as Dr. Flores was saying, we work together as far as providing the logo, and then your region is able to take the 60x30TX logo and fashion it so that it's the West Texas logo or the Northeast Texas logo. So I'm happy to help in that way. I'm also happy to share op-eds or media releases or presentations. I work with the Commissioner of Higher Education to create our op-eds and work very closely with him on our media relations, and I prepare his presentations. So I'm able to share with you the 60x30 resources that I use here, and then you can adapt those for your region. So one of the first questions you want to ask is defining the who. Who are the stakeholders and those critical audiences in your region that you want to either work with or message to? And that's something that I'm happy to help you with. When West Texas was meeting, I think it was at least 2 of the conference calls and webinars that I participated with them. And I presented this same presentation, and we were able to walk through, talk over each aspect. So I offer that to each of your regions. Rather than dwelling on every slide today, I can present this to your region in a webinar, in a conference call, and then we can get into the nitty-gritty of what your region is needing. You also want to define the how. I'm sure, how many of you are familiar with SWOT? So SWOT, strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats. You want to do a SWOT in your region on how you are going to present, market, and message 60x30TX in your region. You also want to think about internal relations. How are you going to get, how is your regional team going to get the buy-in and ownership of institutional leadership, of faculty members, of staff to buy into 60x30TX as a whole, but how you are going to target that as a region. And that goes back to your messaging, who your stakeholders are, and what those critical audiences are that you are going to be addressing. With media relations, since the 60x30TX plan was introduced in July of 2015 and through the end of last year, we've had almost 3,000 media stories and mentions for the agency, and of those, almost half have included 60x30TX. because everything that we do as an agency has to support 60 by 30 text. So whenever I am talking with a reporter or working with either the commissioner or one of our other staff members who are doing a interview, there's always a way to work in 60 by 30 text. How is the topic at hand supporting 60 by 30 text? If it's student debt, if it is marketable skills, there's always a way to work in 60 by 30 text into all media relations that we do. And the important thing is that you're working with your marketing communications staff so that they can help you in that messaging of your regional efforts. Community relations is another important aspect because you want to be looking at community events that are going on in your region that you can tack onto, that you can get that organization that's having an event to support 60 by 30 text or whatever your regional strategies are. So working with your community, that gets back to the stakeholders, knowing who they are, knowing what is going on, and how you can work your message into events and activities that are very regional for you. One of the things that we did when we first launched was we had the Texas Association of Business, at the time the executive director was Bill Hammond, and the timing couldn't have been more perfect that TAB was having their statewide educational event. Bill had heard of the plan, obviously, as the 60 by 30 text plan was getting created, and he grabbed the name 60 by 30 text, and that was the name of his statewide educational event, because everything that 60 by 30 text means and our goals will support business across the state. So he was extremely excited, and this was a headline that he ran with. He created op-eds that ran across the state that I could then tag onto. So that was part of the strategy of working together with a completely separate organization, but our goals supported each other. So look for opportunities like that. Same with events, and I'm going to skip over this because I talked a little bit about it. But the El Paso area was one of the first to create their own logo. They utilized 60 by 30 and made it 60 by 30 EP. In Northeast Texas, they have 60 by 30 NETX, and obviously you saw the West Texas logo. So again, I'm here as a resource to be able to help you if you haven't already developed your regional tagline or creating the 60 by 30 name for your region. I'm happy to help with that. Talked a little bit about social media and how Gentex is using that. We're doing the same with 60 by 30. We use the hashtag 60 by 30 text. We use the hashtag for marketable skills, for student debt. And obviously when you have your regional name, you want to hashtag that. And I'm happy to work with you so that when you send out a tweet, if it has the 60 by 30 hashtag, I will see that and then I can retweet it, and hopefully we can all help each other and support each other in retweeting and utilizing social media to even further get that word out. These are some of the graphics that I'm happy to share with you. We had these created to announce when we introduced 60by30text.com. I can send these to you as EPS files, and you can utilize those on your websites, in your social media, however that you would want to use them. With government relations, we have just finished the last legislative session, and I was very happy that a lot of the legislators, especially the higher ed committee members and the education committee members, 60 by 30 text rolls off their tongue. And we've worked really hard in working with legislators so that what they are working on, especially in those committees, supports 60 by 30 text, but it helps spread the word so that other people, parents, students, have a better understanding of what the 60 by 30 text plan means for them. And it would be important for you to work with your legislators so that 60 by 30 text or 60 by 30, whatever your region name is, rolls off their tongue so that, again, you're all working closely together. And one thing to note that I found out, legislators are able to create videos. The representative, the House has its own AV, the Senate has its own AV, and your legislators can create PSAs that help support 60 by 30 text. So if there's a way to work in what they're working on and how it might support 60 by 30 text, you can help them write short PSAs. 60 seconds would be the longest, but probably 30, 45 seconds. They can get those videos made in the House or the Senate AV, and you can utilize those because it helps your legislator as well as helping you in your region. I wrote a case study that was published in PR News, and a lot of these slides, the points are in here. I'm happy to share the PDF with you. And in addition, for the last 12 weeks, I was selected as a featured writer for GovLoop. GovLoop is a group of about 300,000 federal, state, and local government employees that go to GovLoop for information, for ideas. And for 12 weeks, I wrote a blog, one every week, which was a challenge. But in every blog, I was able to tie in whatever the topic was with 60 by 30 text. And the very first blog was launching a high-impact strategic plan with no budget, because we didn't have any budget when we introduced it. We still don't have any budget, but we try and look for every opportunity, and this GovLoop blog was one way to get the word out about 60 by 30 text, but how all of the programs that we work on support 60 by 30 text. So again, look for unique opportunities and ways that you can promote what you're doing in your regions. So that was really fast, but I'm happy again to answer any questions. I'm also happy to work with you to present this information in your region if you do a webinar or a conference call.
We just have like a couple minutes, but if anybody has any final questions for the presenters, feel free. We stopped recording.
Share her email?
Yes.
Yes.
We can send. We can send that out.
Meeting, I guess.
Anything
I mean, we're
else?
stopping this session, we're doing some
Alright,
Q&A. We'll
appreciate you
stop,
all
and then there'll be a
coming.
break, and
Move
then
on to
the
your
next
next
session will start.
session. Thank you.
Okay, sounds great, thank you.
I will. Okay. Bye.
You actually still talk.
Yes.
You want me to go? Okay.
Okay, I'm gonna go ahead and get started so we can get to everything today. Thanks for coming to the session, which is thinking about guided pathways regionally. I wanted to go over a few things. So I think that you mentioned probably in your last session and this morning, these are being recorded. So the presenters all said they were fine with people asking questions throughout, but just know your voice may be picked up. If you're not okay with that, we will stop the recording at the end for an official Q&A time. And so if you would rather not be recorded, you can wait till then and ask your questions then. My name is Melissa Humphreys. I'm a senior research specialist here at the coordinating board in the research and evaluation department, and we really appreciate you all coming today. We have some great presentations today. I will first introduce, our first presentation is from Christy Short. She's the director of the Texas Success Center and manages the implementation of the Texas Pathway Strategy, plans and coordinates statewide meetings, reports on center's work, and supports the center's knowledge development and communication strategies. Previously, Christy served 12 years at Guilford Technical Community College in North Carolina as a faculty member, program coordinator, grant manager, and unit director. And we're happy to have her here to talk about the statewide guided pathways work they've been doing.
Thank you. Well, thanks to the coordinating board for the invitation. I'm really happy to be here and share some of our work with you. I'm trying to get where the microphone might pick me up and I can reach the wireless mouse serving as a clicker today. So I'm going to
You actually still talk.
Yes.
You want me to go? Okay.
Okay, I'm going to go ahead and get started so we can get to everything today. Thanks for coming to the session, which is thinking about guided pathways regionally. I wanted to go over a few things. So I think that you mentioned probably in your last session and this morning, these are being recorded. So the presenters all said they were fine with people asking questions throughout, but just know your voice may be picked up. If you're not okay with that, we will stop the recording at the end for an official Q&A time. And so if you would rather not be recorded, you can wait till then and ask your questions then. My name is Melissa Humphreys. I'm a senior research specialist here at the coordinating board in the research and evaluation department, and we really appreciate you all coming today. We have some great presentations today. I will first introduce, our first presentation is from Christy Short. She's the director of the Texas Success Center and manages the implementation of the Texas Pathway Strategy, plans and coordinates statewide meetings, reports on center's work, and supports the center's knowledge development and communication strategies. Previously, Christy served 12 years at Guilford Technical Community College in North Carolina as a faculty member, program coordinator, grant manager, and unit director. And we're happy to have her here to talk about the statewide guided pathways work they've been doing.
Thank you. Well, thanks to the coordinating board for the invitation. I'm really happy to be here and share some of our work with you. I'm trying to get where the microphone might pick me up and I can reach the wireless mouse serving as a clicker today. So I'm going to talk a little bit about guided pathways, some of the work of the Success Center, and then share some examples of work going on at colleges. And I know a number of people here in the room have been to our institutes and are involved with some other strategies in the region. So if you'd like to jump in, add your perspective at any point, certainly welcome your comments. So historically, community colleges have not been known for their efficiency and high student outcomes. If you were to ask students what their community college experience was like, they might say that it was an obstacle course, a roller coaster ride, or maybe even a confusing maze hard to get through. But this is not new information. I think this is pretty well known in higher ed that community colleges have had some structural problems, and in Texas there have been many, many efforts to change this, and these efforts have been somewhat successful, but we know that we haven't moved the needle as far as we would like to. We haven't achieved that big jump in outcomes. So a lot of good, smart people for a long time have tried to make a difference in student success. But for too long, students experienced community colleges like a cafeteria model. You may have heard this term before related to guided pathways. So students didn't know what their goals were. They didn't know how to get to their goals from where they started. There wasn't a lot of coherence for their program. It was a collection of classes rather than this through line that helps students understand how those classes relate to each other to get to the final goal. Things that we know work, like orientation and advising, were optional. Students had the freedom to choose that or not to participate in those interventions. Learning outcomes were directed towards the course level, not necessarily the program level. Instructors didn't often work together or engage in professional development. Students didn't know how they were doing. Their progress wasn't monitored by someone else, and they weren't aware of how they were progressing along towards their degree path. And then finally, advisors and faculty didn't often talk together. And so we have this disjointed cafeteria-style model. Guided Pathways model seeks to change that in a number of very important ways. So the pathways are aligned with the student's end goal, whether that's related to transfer or going on and securing employment immediately after they leave the community college. Students are guided through their selection of a program, not left to choose among the 74 programs on the application. I think I'll do this one. They're given opportunities to think through the offerings and how they relate to their end goals and choose a program. We know that many students come to us underprepared for college level work, and so those foundational or developmental skills are integrated and thought of as an on-ramp. We'll talk a little bit more about some of that later. Student learning outcomes are thought of as program learning outcomes and are assessed across the student's experience. Faculty do engage in professional development related to pedagogy, also related to student success. So thinking not just are you a content expert and can you convey that to the students in your classroom, but what is your role in helping these students persist and succeed and go on and graduate as they learn. Students know what they need to do, and advisors and faculty work together very closely. So at the Texas Success Center is currently engaged in a 5-year strategic plan called Texas Pathways. And we do use the same regions that the Dana Center uses. So these are 6 regions rather than the 10 from the coordinating board. And you can see that 48 of the 50 community college districts are now engaged in Texas Pathways, and there is pretty good representation from across the state in the different regions. We also organize colleges into 4 cadres because we know that the colleges in the state are at different levels of readiness and capacity to take on this heavy lift of implementing guided pathways at scale. So guided pathways strategy in Texas really stemmed from the AACC Pathways Project. We had a number of Texas institutions apply to be part of that initial first cohort with AACC. 4 were selected, but so many more wanted to participate that the Success Center tried to think of a way to develop a strategy and a structure for everyone to participate. And so that's why we have 4 cadres. Cadre 1 and those 4 AACC schools are the ones who are implementing guided pathways at scale now. Cadre 2, planning to implement at scale. Cadre 3, building a critical readiness capacity. Largely that revolves around data, the ability to collect, analyze, and use data appropriately to inform decisions. And then Cadre 4 may not have had the same kind of experience with student success initiatives that other colleges have. They're just learning about this. Maybe they don't have sufficient resources to have built that infrastructure, but they're getting into the conversation. So we think of pathways as this integrated system-wide approach. It is redesigning the institution to redesign the student experience. So it's not just a series of discrete changes, but really looking at the entirety of the student experience as they connect, interprogress, and succeed. Starting with the end in mind and looking at what our 4-year and industry partners need. How do we get students to learn in their program so that they earn that credential, a certificate, or an associate degree? Before that, how do we help them to persist and make progress? It's not enough just to be enrolled in the college, taking classes and accumulating credits. Those credits need to come together and ultimately lead to a credential in that structured program of study. getting them onto that program of study, helping them complete their gateway courses early because we know that it is a momentum point, and then helping them to connect to the college. So we've heard a little bit about that earlier this morning. How do you reach out to students, whether they are coming straight from high school or they've been out of the education system for a while, and bring them to your institution? If you're familiar with guided pathways, then you're probably familiar with these 4 pillars that are very similar to that model of connect, enter, progress, and succeed I just showed you. So that was from the student's perspective, and this is from the college's perspective. So the first part is clarifying the path to student end goals. So we know that previously sometimes programs weren't necessarily aligned, well thought out, there was a lot of history there, they could have had excess credit hours. So how do you streamline those programs, ensure the students are getting the skills they need that align with an outcome that you want the students to achieve? Then helping students to choose that path and then enter the path. What is the on-ramp to get there? How do you help them stay on the path? This is when you incorporate more of those student support services as well as that structured program of study. And then, of course, ensuring that students are learning all along the way. This largely relates to those program learning outcomes, high-impact practices, professional development. So supporting student learning, which is central to Guided Pathways work. At the Success Center, like I said, our 5-year strategic plan is Texas Pathways, and we accomplish this largely through 4 strategies. The first, Texas Pathways Institutes, which a number of people in here have attended in the past. These are semi-annual gatherings where the Success Center funds the participation of teams of 7 from each community college. And during the Pathways Institutes, we have plenary speakers. We also have concurrent presentations where colleges share some of their reform work and successful strategies, lessons learned, and then the foundation of all this is the creation of an action plan through team strategy sessions. So teams have 4 opportunities throughout the event to work on a structured plan. They leave with a draft plan, take it back to campus, and then get started on the next stage of the work. And this is a photo from one of our recent Texas Pathways Institutes with the Grayson College team sitting here in the front as they're working with their coach who guides them through some questions and acts as a critical friend to help progress them along. Board of Trustees Institute is another strategy we have where 2 trustees and the CEO, who is the president or chancellor of the institution, get together once a year and learn about student success and how trustees can address student success through their role. Looking at data, making decisions informed by data, so thinking about things like budgeting, strategic planning, and policy from the lens of student success. Regional meetings, we'll talk about here in just a moment. And then knowledge development is basically how are we sharing what we're learning with the rest of the field. So our regional strategy does largely revolve around regional meetings. In 2017, we held regional meetings about guided pathways to get the word out, answer questions, learn more about colleges' challenges and opportunities related to implementing pathways. 2018, with the passage of House Bill 2223, we held regional meetings about co-requisite models, and those were in collaboration with Complete College America and the Dana Center. And then earlier this year, we held meetings in 4 regions about adult education and literacy, and those were led by Amarillo College and with the Texas Workforce Commission. We also, earlier this year, stood up the Texas Association of Chief Academic Officers. The Success Center is housed at the Texas Association of Community Colleges, which is the organization for CEOs, presidents, and chancellors. But then we started another organization just for chief academic officers, and that is divided into regions with regional representatives to discuss issues that are important to CAOs and discuss their common challenges and how to address those. Through our work with colleges, we've seen a lot of similarities in college strategies, and these are aligned with the Guided Pathways model. I'd say overall, most of the colleges are working regionally with partners in what you might conceptualize as like a vertical timeline or maybe a through line. They're not collaborating quite so much with other community colleges. So they're working with high schools on initiatives like dual credit, early college high schools. Sometimes they host summer camps at their institutions. They're working with the AEL providers, workforce advisory committee. So the career technical workforce programs have an advisory committee to help determine learning outcomes and steps to get there, courses. Employers who provide internships and then later employment for graduates, and then universities as transfer partners. So this is pretty common. All the colleges in the state are working on these kinds of connections in one way or another. We do have some examples of colleges working together, and there are more than this, but these are some of the highlights. Just downstairs, Christine Hubbard is talking about the North Texas Community College Consortium. So this is a group of 13 college districts, 19 colleges if you consider all the individual institutions in the Dallas district, and then the University of North Texas. And she's talking about their work on transfer, and they've done quite a bit on transfer. They have a very extensive database, not just with UNT, but with other four-year institutions in the state. And they also provide professional development opportunities, things like conferences about developmental education, assessment, and learning outcomes. There is the Northeast Texas Consortium of Colleges and Universities, which is a little bit different. They have a different focus. They're not focused so much on transfer. They started off with a strong transfer lens, but they've moved on to other areas. So this is 7 community college districts and 5 universities. And I think very interestingly, they provide access to shared resources like an enterprise resource planning product and system and shared staffing. So they all implemented the same ERP, and they hired one full-timer to go around to all the different campuses and help train folks on that. They're looking at hiring additional staffing for folks in positions like financial aid and other student support services to share among the institutions. They provide professional development opportunities as well, things like grant writing conferences and distance learning conferences, and they have a slightly different mission with access to education and healthcare. There's work going on in Houston that I'm going to leave to my presenters coming up in the second half of this session to talk about, so I'm not ignoring Houston. I am ignoring Houston on purpose just because I know that they have that covered. So it is not an omission of judgment here. Also downstairs, Martha Ellis is talking about the Texas Transfer Alliance, and I wanted to just mention these other strategies because they are a critical component of guided pathways. So Texas Transfer Alliance is led by the Dana Center and some of the national partners of the Aspen Institute. You're probably familiar with Aspen through their College Excellence Award for community colleges, HCM strategists, and also SOBA. You can see here a list of the different numbers of community colleges and universities who've participated in these regional meetings this year. Some examples from specific institutions that I wanted to share, and many of these do relate to transfer. It seems like that's where a lot of the community college work is happening. Austin and Alamo, so looking at the Austin and San Antonio regions, have a Transfer Pathways Compact. So it's 2 community colleges and 19 universities, both public and private universities. So they are working to develop transfer plans, to keep those plans current, have a process to share student information from the community college to the university, have a process backwards for reverse transfer, get faculty together to talk about their programs and aligning those, and then help advisors get together and discuss the challenges that they face in advising students for transfer. There are some co-enrollment programs. So Austin has programs where students are students at both Austin Community College and at these universities at the same time, and they enjoy benefits of being enrolled in both of those. And then Blinn has a couple of those co-enrollment programs as well. Brazosport is looked at the other side of the student pathway. So rather than looking at universities, they're looking at high schools for an innovative approach. So they're working with 4 school districts, and this program is officially kicking off this fall. It's for workforce education. So the high school students take classes at Brazosport in their junior and senior years in either process technology or instrumentation technology. They will have their associate degree 1 year after they graduate high school, and their baccalaureate in applied technology 3 years after they graduate high school, and they will go straight into the workforce. the regional pathways strategies that are happening across the state. We have some colleges that embed college advisors at their local high schools and the ISDs to help them understand more about what's available at the college. So at some institutions, student success is tracked by the feeder institution they came from, so the college can then reach back out to the high school and help the students become more college ready. Especially in the Dallas region, we see a big emphasis on the P-TECH, early college, high schools, and dual credit, bringing together those industry partners, ISDs, and transfer partners to have a conversation about regional workforce needs. And then business industry partners collaborating about curriculum, resources, and opportunities for employment for graduates. So we've learned from colleges what's working in guided pathways and what they are challenged on. So some of these are strategies that colleges have identified as working particularly well. So many colleges are wrapping up creating their program maps. They've changed that choose 3 social behavioral sciences from this bucket of 45 into determined electives with a semester by semester course plan for students. They are ahead of the state benchmarks on implementing co-requisite models. They think that building those relationships through advising has helped their students to stay enrolled and move on and make progress in their program path. Many colleges are incorporating financial stability supports. We have Amarillo in the room. They are really leading this work across the state in terms of helping students meet their basic needs. There's more data sharing happening both in the college, so the IR departments or staff members working in that functionality are sharing out more data about student outcomes with faculty and staff, and then data sharing also between different groups. So I gave that example of the IR department tracking how students do from different high school districts and then sharing that back out to those districts. And technology has helped a number of colleges, so they're getting new student information systems. They're redesigning their website. I saw some statistics yesterday about how much more traffic Austin Community College is routing to their application through a website redesign. So there are a lot of opportunities happening with technology. Students can go on, see how the courses they're taking match up to the requirements and the degree. In some cases, see the what-if scenario of if I change my program, what does it look like now? How long does it take me to finish? So technology can be a big help. Technology can also be a big challenge. So we have a number of colleges who don't have the resources to implement a new student information system. They're working with outdated technology. Maybe they don't have the personnel to install and configure these systems, or the people who can train other folks on them. Websites sometimes are out of date and there's not a whole lot to do about them. So technology is a challenge as well as a strength. We hear all the time that communication is difficult, so within an institution it's hard, especially a big institution, to get the work that's happening on pathways down to everybody. So a lot of times the executive leadership, mid-level leadership, deans, division chairs, and department chairs are pretty well aware of what's going on, but sometimes the faculty and staff on the ground aren't as well informed about what's happening. And also there's some issues with communicating with outside stakeholders. So we hear examples of ISDs not advising the students into the new pathways that are offered at the colleges. They may not know about them. So colleges have done all this work. They've come up with new degree plans, even in some cases new programs of study. But the high schools aren't aware of those, or the advisors are telling them to take college algebra rather than that different math course that has been prescribed in that program of study. We can provide career assessments for students, have conversations with them, but we've heard numerous times that getting students to actually make the decision is sometimes hard. So you give them the information, you help to guide them, but have them choose something and stick with it and proceed along that is sometimes challenging. And so many colleges have implemented what used to be known as meta majors, looking at those career clusters to help students at least narrow it down. So get a general idea, and then later as they progress, narrow it down and pick a more specific program. Colleges sometimes do see pathways as this discrete set of different changes they can make. So we've done our program maps, everybody has an assigned advisor, there's a mandatory orientation, we pick the right math, we're doing pathways. but they don't see it as this systemic change where they're really redesigning the institution and looking at it as a paradigm shift in how they serve students. And so helping to reinforce that message and get that out is some of the work that the Success Center has been doing. Program learning outcomes seems to continually be a challenge for folks. We just recently hosted a follow-up webinar on how to create good program learning outcomes because we hear that feedback from colleges a lot. So we do it for SACs, we have it for accreditation purposes, but how is that different from what we're doing with pathways? And then funding is often a concern as well. In terms of implementing new things like technology, hiring more advisors to serve students in a caseload, and even just looking at basic operations for the college as some state allocations have decreased. So where do we see this going? Like I said, our Texas Pathways strategy is 5 years. We are in year 3 right now. So what comes next after that? We think that a logical progression and evolution of that strategy is looking at these regional talent pipelines. So these different groups all working together to grow the workforce, help get more educated students out there and into those jobs that will help them support themselves and their family. So looking at the P16 or P20 groups, employers, government officials, and administrators, so local government, even up to those federal policy makers, community networks that help get the word out about what employment opportunities are available and find folks for those. Social service providers, we know that our students and future employees have lives outside of work and school, so how do we help provide for those needs? And then philanthropic partners who often see community prosperity as part of their mission. Thank you very much.
And now we'll transition to our next presentation with Houston GPS. Dr. Elkins Longacre and Dr. Dwight Smith will be presenting. Dr. Longacre serves as Vice Provost and Dean for Undergraduate Student Success in the Office of the Provost at U of H. In this role, Dr. Longacre is responsible for articulating and implementing a strategic vision for the university's undergraduate student success efforts, including academic advising, research opportunities, and improvement of academic programs. Dr. Smith is the Vice Chancellor for Academic Success at Lone Star College System. Prior to arriving at Lone Star, Dr. Smith held senior academic leadership positions with County College of Morris, St. Louis Community College, Forest Park, Miami-Dade College, and Southern Illinois University, Edwardsville.
Thank you very much. Good morning. I think it's still morning, everyone. Where do you want to stand?
I think I'll stand here.
We're going to kind of team present here. And we want to talk to you about Houston GPS, which is our regional strategy, really focused on the Gulf Coast region. We want to keep the formal part of our presentation somewhat brief and leave plenty of time for questions. But please also ask us questions along the way. We're happy to answer whatever you have. So we're going to talk about Houston GPS, how it got started, what is it, what are the strategies we're implementing, and sort of where we are now and how we're assessing our work as a region. Okay. So Houston GPS started back in 2014. It was initiated by our provost, Paula Myrick-Short, shortly after she started out as a new provost at the University of Houston. And the idea really was that we could do more working together than any single institution working alone. And the idea was a partnership between 2- and 4-year institutions in the Houston area to address the completion issues, the lower completion issues that we saw in the city. And we've now expanded beyond the Houston areas we'll talk about in a second. When we started this work, we began with 7 institutions, 3 4-year institutions, 4 2-year institutions, all really taking a hard look at our data, the data in the city and the region and the data of our institutions. And what we saw was that students were graduating with too many credits. At UH, for example, around this time, our transfer students were graduating with around 151 or so credits. Maureen Croft, who's in the room here, was at UH at the time, and I think did the study that helped reveal this data to us. Our students were graduating at very low rates. 4-year rates were low in the region, 2-year rates were low. Our students were taking way too much time to graduate, well over the 4 years or even 6 years it takes to complete a 4-year degree, and therefore spending too much money on completing their degree or sometimes not completing degrees and leaving with a large amount of debt. There are lots of reasons that students were doing this, not making the best choices in terms of selecting majors. You heard Chrissy talk a lot about that. Students who were transferring across institutions, and ours didn't transfer, they were moving across dissimilar majors, and so we had a lot of excess credit, as you see here. So lots of different reasons, both student choices, but also a lot of things that the institutions weren't doing, and so we all committed as a region and across these 7 initial institutions to put into place guided pathways to success strategies at scale at each of our institutions to address these issues that we saw in the data. So what started with 7 institutions is now 13. Since we began, we have expanded to all of the institutions that you see here. Bobby Cubriel, I would also like to recognize him, who's here from Victoria College. Do we have anyone else from any of the Houston GPS institutions in the room? No. All right. Victoria College is one of our newer partners, a year or so ago, that works very closely with UH Victoria. So we now have these 13 institutions in a broader geographic area, a broader network of 2- and 4-year institutions. Again, all working together to put these GPS strategies in place. In terms of why we all came together, we are really focusing, as I said, on creating seamless transfer pathways. That's really the heart of our 2- and 4-year work, making sure that students can start at any of our 2-year institutions at Houston GPS and transfer seamlessly in terms of their credits to appropriate majors at any of the 4-year institutions, and all credits are going to apply to those degrees. So smoothing out the transfer process, increasing completion rates both at our 2-year and our 4-year institutions, and then saving students time and money. In terms of how we got started in 2014, as I said, we started with 7 institutions. Lone Star, which is Dr. Smith's institution, was one of our initial members as well. All of the leaders of these institutions, presidents, chancellors, came together at an initial convening with Complete College America, and all signed an MOU. So there was commitment from the very top of these organizations committing to putting in place these strategies, and I'll come to the strategies shortly. There was, after the MOU was signed, we had the luxury of a funded planning year. We had funding from the Houston Endowment that provided us with a year-long, very intensive, very detailed planning process. We created task forces cross-institutional, so we had folks from all of the institutions in Houston GPS at that time on task forces, looking very deeply at each of the GPS strategies that we were putting into place. We worked with content experts from Complete College America, from top institutions across the country who had done this work. We looked at what are the best practices with each of the strategies we were looking to put into place. What are the gaps? What were we already doing? What were we not doing? And at the end of that year, put together implementation plans, both at a task force level, so advising, proactive advising is one of our strategies. What does that look like for Houston GPS? And then an implementation plan for each institution, so that each institution knew to achieve this, this Houston GPS goal of putting proactive advising into place, what do we need to be doing at each institution. The implementation plans, because they were a result of this type of process, are very customized for the needs of our institutions and for the needs of our region. We were not interested in putting a cookie cutter approach into our institutions, but really having them tailored to the needs of our institutions and most importantly to the needs of our students. So we had a structure in place to help ensure that all of this work was done. We had our chancellors and presidents as part of an oversight committee. We had teams at each institution really focusing on the work that needed to be done at the institution. We had cross-institutional teams, as I said, looking at each of the strategies and how those should be put into place. The University of Houston provides kind of leadership in terms of organizing, but it's a true partnership across all of the now 13 institutions as we continue with our work. The strategies that we've all committed to put into place at scale, and Dwight, please jump in here anytime. Okay.
You know the history.
All right. So the strategies that we've all agreed to put into place and that we're putting into place right now, you see listed here. Math alignment was one of the first areas that we tackled. Is Jenna in the room? Jenna worked with us with the Dana Center when we started this project, really aligning for every major, aligning math to the major. So not all majors need college algebra as the gateway math, and so what is that appropriate math? This work was done and completed very early on. It was led by Dr. Jeff Morgan at the University of Houston, former math chair, and was one of our initial success stories for completing a strategy as part of Houston GPS. Co-requisite remediation, you heard Christy talk a little bit about that. We started this work a little ahead of the state requirement, and this of course involves getting more students through math and English gateways in that first year by eliminating the need to do first a developmental course and then the college level course. We had initially a great deal of assistance from content experts come in, do some policy institutes with us, work with faculty from across our institutions to look at different models, different co-requisite models. So all of our institutions have put these models into place, and I think overall we're all ahead of the state minimums that came about a couple of years ago. Proactive advising and informed choice is another one of our key strategies. Advising is, as Bobby knows, is a critical piece of student success, and part of our model of proactive advising was moving from being transactional, reactive types of advisors to being more proactive, enabled by technology, reaching students who are high risk before they came to advisors with an even bigger problem, reaching them earlier. We are able to do this much more effectively now through Houston GPS with some predictive analytics technology that we've put into place. The informed choice part of this really also gets back to a little bit of what Chrissy was talking about, and that is helping students get into the right major or the right meta major very early on, so that they're not switching majors too often, they're not taking courses that aren't going to apply to their degree plan, they're focusing on a career which keeps them engaged, keeps them persisting. And so we put a number of different interventions in the onboarding process, career and major assessments, that sort of thing, into place to help with informed choice. Structured schedules, here we're focusing on, are we providing courses that are delivered such that students with other responsibilities can actually come to campus or take courses online and actually complete the number of courses that they need to stay on track? Or Are we offering courses, they're on campus from 8 in the morning until 8 at night with a large block of time in between. And so we're really looking strategically at how we're offering courses, the times that we're offering courses, to make sure that students can more efficiently complete their degrees, take courses in a way that works with their lives outside of school. And last, but I think one of the most important, is meta majors and degree maps. And so one of the ways that we're really working to create those seamless pathways from 2 to 4 year institutions is creating maps either by meta major, in some cases by majors where there are very heavy fields of study. When we're creating maps that all of our 2 and 4 year institutions agree on a set of courses in the first 2 years for each degree that is guaranteed to transfer seamlessly from the 2 year to the 4 year institutions without a loss of credit across appropriate majors. Right? And so we're in the midst of that work right now, and we're very hopeful that that is going to go a long way toward reducing those excess credits that we see for our transfer students. So where are we now? What have we accomplished so far? As I mentioned, Math Pathways was something that was completed very early on. Next step there is really to assess, has this made a difference? Are more of our students completing math and English, or completing math gateways in this case, so that they are able to move forward more quickly in their degrees? I mentioned the degree maps that we're creating as part of Houston GPS. And the idea for these maps is that they would replace the individual articulation agreements between institutions, that are very major specific, to eliminate that, which can be very complex across 13 institutions, into one set of maps that we all agree on. As I mentioned, we've put predictive technology in place. Some of us have EAB's Navigate product, Lone Star uses Civitas. So we're using different technologies, but all focused on the same goal, which is providing our advisors, our administrators, our faculty with the data needed to intervene with students as quickly as possible. We have put proactive advising practices in place in many cases. It's not just the technology, but there's a certain advising infrastructure that needs to be in place. We have, some of our institutions have revised job descriptions, revised the way we do advising awards, revised our training. All of these pieces, revise the way that we hire advisors, what we're looking for, all go into this culture shift that really needed to happen across many of our institutions to move from that reactive to more of a proactive focus. I mentioned already the informed choice interventions that have been put into place, orientation programs with assessment tools. Some of our institutions deliver courses where career and major choice is built into the course. We have put prerequisite models in place at all of our institutions. And we are currently in the process through EAB of creating a transfer portal, which will be web-based and will be free to any user, high school students, counselors, parents, prospective students, current students, transfer students, administrators, anyone can go to this website, which is scheduled to be available in fall of 19. We'll be able to go to the website, put in courses that, say you have a community college student who has completed a certain number of courses and they're wanting to know the most efficient transfer pathway. They will be able to go to the website, put in the courses that they've completed, and see at any of the Houston GPS institutions, 4-year institutions, exactly how those courses transfer to every degree program, undergraduate degree program at that institution. So which ones are they closer to the hours, help them complete closer and complete
quicker than some others. So that's the transfer portal. We also, we've been at this, as I said, we started in 2014. We're also very focused on tracking the impact of our work. We've all agreed on certain metrics that we're using to measure our impact. And you see some of those here. And really we're focusing on not only completion, but those metrics that we know lead to completion, or indicators, early indicators of completion. Are our students completing 30 hours in that first year, 15 hours a semester, or 30 in the first year? How long are our students taking? What is the time to degree? What are the credits to degree? Retention, completion of math and English gateways in the first year, and of course, 100% and 150% completion rates at both our 2- and 4-year institutions.
Okay.
You want to add anything?
Yeah, I do. I want to offer a perspective from Lone Star College. We have 7 campuses, 90,000 students. And why this is so important to Lone Star College is we looked at National Student Clearinghouse data of transfer patterns over the last 5 years. We had something like 45,000 students transfer from Lone Star College to a variety of institutions, both within the state. Majority in the Gulf Coast area, about 19,000 students, but we have students going to over institutions in 50 states, 3 territories. Our involvement, we've been involved with the pathways, very important, and we've seen about a 10 percentage point increase with regards to our graduation rates in the past 3 or 4 years. Just this past spring, we had 4,200 students transfer to either University of Houston downtown. In talking with Terry, and what's exciting about the GPS is, one, the ability to begin to share meaningful information, particularly when we're talking about predictive analytics. We may know that students complete certain courses. We don't necessarily know their behaviors within those courses and how well they succeeded in those courses. So this is providing us opportunity to share data. We use Civitas, which is analyzing student behavior in courses and across courses, very similar to EAB. And we're entering discussions about how we can share data so that they are aware of the behaviors of students transferring into the institutions. Similarly, we're very interested as to whether we are preparing students to be successful at the University of Houston. So the discussions about predictive analytics will be helpful. The discussion about sharing of transcripts for reverse transfer purposes is very important to us. The discussion, and Terry didn't talk about it, but she's been providing great leadership in forming teams to come together, faculty teams across the various institutions, to really talk about the sequence of courses. And when there's disagreement, having discussions where there is, out of that discussion, a map is provided. And we've had discussions where, for instance, I think in education and how to count EDUC 1300, how does that fit in? You know, out of that discussion came some clarification, so we now have a degree map. So students at Lone Star taking EDUC 1300 who are interested in transferring to U of H or UH downtown, we can give them a clear rationale about how this fits into their program of study. That is a very important aspect of it. And I think in the long term, the notion that we create these maps so that we're not negotiating on an annual basis 20 to 30 articulation agreements just because we may have had this course tweaked or we added this course here, I think it will be helpful in the long run. We'll see over time, but having to manage, we all manage a variety of articulation agreements. If we think about, again, looking at Lone Star, students go all over the state, trying to help them navigate what courses they should be taking to enter whatever institution in the state. This type of approach will just seem to me make it much easier for students, and that's what we hope. Because we do want to improve our success rates. We've been improving, but we still see, there are some leaders in the state, and we want to close those gaps. We still have gaps with regards to various student populations that we have to acknowledge and address. So this is giving us a good way to build upon the work in the guided pathways, work with institutions where our students go, and also realize our students don't necessarily follow our path and complete our path before they go to your path, because when you're in a metropolitan area, there's a lot of swirl going on. So students do leave, not necessarily the end of their program of study. They might leave halfway or 1/4 or 1/3 or 3/4 of the way through their program of study, but at least these pathways do show these are the courses you still need to complete when you do transfer, and what courses you need to complete so that you do obtain some credential wherever that is. I think I'll stop there.
And I would add, as part of those discussions that I was mentioning, or faculty to faculty discussions, we're also focusing on aligning curriculum, and so some of the richness of recent discussions really has gotten down to looking at learning objectives and how courses are delivered and how can we all best deliver online. What are you doing? What are you doing? So a lot of really great conversations across institutions, both 2 and 4 year, to try to make sure that we're all preparing our students to succeed, because that's why we're all doing this work.
One thing, it does help, again, I mentioned we have 7 campuses with over 900 faculty, full-time faculty. This work helps us focus our faculty with regards to how we collaborate within an institution, a multi-campus institution, so that we're providing the same message to students irrespective of what courses they're taking from a particular campus. And we have students taking courses at various campuses. So this does help us get ourselves organized as well and give a clear message to our students.
We're happy to answer whatever questions there are in the time we have left.
It's kind of for all 3 of you that presented, kind of a bit of a two-part. So looking at it from the K-12 side, we've talked a lot about the handoffs from your 2-year to your 4-year, but you have students now, and it's going to continue to expand based on a lot of the new initiatives and expectations for accountability in the K-12 realm. More dual credit, we're seeing more